The research base floated quietly above the dark surface of a forgotten moon. Its silver walls gleamed under the light of a distant star. Inside, the halls were cold and still, filled with the hum of machines that never rested. Humans lived here, working as scientists, guards, and technicians, but life felt heavy and controlled. Rules were strict, and one rule stood above all others: never go near the lowest chamber. Aaron, a young guard barely older than 20, had heard whispers about that chamber since his first day. They said a monster was locked inside. Some described it with sharp teeth, others with claws long enough to tear steel. Some even said it was not one being but many, a creature that shifted shape to trick whoever looked at it. Aaron never saw proof of these tales, but the fear in the voices of the older guards was enough to plant unease in his heart. He walked past the sealed door every night while making rounds. The door was made of heavy black metal, reinforced with glowing locks. On the surface of the door, a warning was written in bright red letters: "Do not engage. Dangerous specimen." At first, Aaron tried not to think about it. He had other duties like checking the outer walls, making sure the energy shields held steady, and keeping an eye on the storage decks. But every night his path circled closer to that forbidden place, as if his curiosity pushed him forward step by step. The other guards liked to joke when they saw him staring. "Don't let it look into your eyes," one of them teased. "They say if you hear it speak, you'll lose your mind," another added. Aaron forced himself to laugh with them, but inside he wondered if these men truly believed their own words, or if they simply repeated what they had been told. One quiet evening, when most of the base was asleep and only the night shift remained awake, Aaron walked the lower corridor again. His boots clicked softly against the floor. The hum of the machines grew faint as he reached the door. For a moment he stopped, staring at the warning signs. His hand hovered near the wall where the cold surface gave off a faint vibration, as though something behind it breathed. Then it happened. A soft voice. A whisper. "Is someone there?" Aaron froze. His chest tightened. His training told him to call the command room at once, but his curiosity rooted him to the spot. The voice did not sound monstrous. It was not harsh or cruel. It was calm, almost gentle, with a note of longing that stirred something in his chest. "Yes," Aaron said quietly before he could stop himself. "I'm here." There was silence for a moment, then the voice spoke again. "How long has it been?"
"How many days?"
Aaron's hand shook. He did not know how to answer. "I don't know," he admitted. "They never told me anything about you." The voice sighed, not with anger but with sadness. "Of course. They never do." Aaron stepped back, his mind racing. Was this the monster the guard spoke about? The one said to tear men apart? It did not sound dangerous. It sounded
"Lonely, why are you locked away?"
he asked, almost whispering the words. "I was captured," the voice said. "Not for crimes, but because of how I look. They called me a threat, but I never wished to harm. I saved one of them once. Do you know that? I saved a human from fire when his own machines failed. That is when they saw me. Instead of thanks, I was taken. They locked me here because fear is easier than truth." Aaron's heart pounded. Could this be true? He had grown up hearing tales of alien monsters that lurked in the shadows of space. Humanity was still young compared to the vastness of the galaxy. They had learned to fear what they did not understand. Yet something about this voice broke through the fear. "What is your name?" Aaron asked carefully. "Nira," the voice replied. "I am Nira, and you?" "Aaron." The sound of his own name on her lips felt strange. He had never expected to speak with the prisoner. It felt like crossing a forbidden line, one that could never be erased. For the rest of his shift, Aaron stood near the wall, speaking in low tones so that no one would hear. Nira told him about stars she had seen, places far beyond human maps. She described seas of light, skies filled with colors no human eye could fully capture. Her words painted pictures in his mind, beautiful and strange, so different from the cold steel of the base. When his shift ended, Aaron walked back to his quarters in silence. He could not shake her voice from his thoughts. The next day he tried to act normal. He joined the other guards in the mess hall. They spoke of drills and jokes, laughed about broken machines, and traded stories about home. But to Aaron, their voices felt dull compared to the soft wonder of Nira's words. That night, he found himself drawn back to the lower chamber. He told himself it was just to make sure everything was safe. But deep inside, he knew the truth. He wanted to hear her again, and he did. She was waiting, as though she had known he would return. "Hello, Aaron," she said, her voice warm. Aaron smiled faintly, though no one could see him. "Hello, Nira." The hours passed quickly as they spoke. She asked about Earth, about blue skies and green forests she had never seen. Aaron told her of the small town where he grew up, of rivers where he used to swim as a boy. For the first time since joining the base, he felt truly alive while speaking. But fear still sat heavy in his chest. What if the others discovered him? What if they punished him for breaking the rule? The next morning, Aaron lay awake in his bunk, staring at the ceiling. His thoughts churned. Could the others be wrong? Could the prisoner truly be harmless? He wanted to believe her, but doubt gnawed at him. Later that day, he heard the senior officer speaking to a group of guards. The officer's voice was sharp. "Remember this, the being below is not to be trusted. It is dangerous. If it speaks to you, do not answer. If you hear a sound, report it at once. Do not forget the blood it may spill if freed." Aaron clenched his fists. The officer's words felt heavy with fear, not truth. He thought of Nira's voice, gentle and calm. She did not speak like a creature of rage. She spoke like someone who had lost everything but still hoped to be heard. That night, Aaron returned again. He told himself it was only to test her story, only to see if her words stayed the same. "Aaron," Nira whispered when she sensed his presence. "You came back." "Yes," he said softly. "I had to." As the hours passed, the bond grew. He asked more questions and she answered with honesty. Sometimes she stayed silent, as if holding back painful memories. But even her silences spoke louder than the lies of the guards above. When his shift ended, Aaron walked away with his heart heavier than before. He now stood between two worlds, the world of his orders and the world of Nira's truth. And though he did not know it yet, the choice he made in the nights to come would change everything, not just for him but for all of humanity. Aaron moved through his duties the next day with a mind clouded by thoughts of the night before. He had spoken to the prisoner twice now. Twice he had heard her voice, calm and soft, nothing like the stories told by the officers. Yet the rule was clear: never engage, never trust, never speak. Still, he could not forget her name, Nira. It echoed in his thoughts like a secret melody, something too delicate for the cold corridors of the base. When he tried to push it away, the memory of her questions returned, about Earth, about skies and rivers. She had wanted to know simple things, things no monster would ask. That evening, Aaron sat in the mess hall with the other guards. They laughed loudly about a broken transport pod that had spun in circles for hours before the engineers fixed it. Plates clattered, voices rose, but Aaron barely tasted his food. He kept glancing at the clock, counting the hours until his rounds would take him near the forbidden chamber again. One of the older guards noticed his silence. "What's wrong, boy? Lose your tongue?" he asked with a grin. Aaron forced a small smile. "Just tired." The guard shrugged and went back to his meal. When night fell and the halls grew quiet, Aaron walked his usual path. His boots made the same steady rhythm against the steel floors. The lights flickered gently above, casting long shadows on the walls. And then once again he reached the door. He hesitated, heart racing. Should he turn away? Should he force himself to obey the rule? Then he heard her voice. "Aaron," she whispered, almost as if she had been waiting for him. He swallowed and stepped closer. "I am here." "You came back," she said, her tone filled with relief. "Yes," Aaron replied. "I should not be here, but I had to know. I had to hear you again." Silence lingered for a moment, and then Nira spoke again. "You are kind, Aaron. You listen when others only fear." Her words warmed him, though they also filled him with guilt. If anyone discovered this, his future would be ruined. Still, he could not pull himself away. "Why do they call you a monster?" Aaron asked at last. "Why does everyone fear you so much?" There was a pause before she answered. Her voice grew soft, almost heavy. "Because they saw my face. To their eyes, I do not look like you. My form is different, shaped by another world, another sky. I have eyes that shine, skin that carries patterns, and arms longer than yours. To them I looked dangerous even when I held no weapon. Fear blinded them, and so they called me what I am not." Aaron pressed his palm against the cold wall, imagining her on the other side. "And you never harmed anyone?" "Never," Nira said firmly. "I crossed paths with explorers once. Their vessel had caught fire. I pulled one of them from the flames, but when the others saw me, they raised their weapons. I tried to speak, but they shouted and struck me down. When I woke, I was here, behind these walls. They never listened, not once. Only you have listened. Her words struck deep in Aaron's heart. All his life he had been told to follow orders, to trust the leaders, to believe the warnings. Yet standing here, hearing Nira's voice, he began to wonder if the leaders themselves were wrong. "Tell me about your world," Aaron said quietly. "Tell me about where you came from." Nira's voice grew brighter as she spoke. She described a world with skies of silver clouds and oceans that glowed with light in the dark. She spoke of great towers made not of steel, but of living crystal that grew upward like trees. She told of her people who sang to one another across the air, voices carrying not just sound but meaning. Aaron listened in awe. The images filled his mind, painting colors and shapes he had never imagined. The base around him seemed colder, smaller, weaker compared to the beauty she described. When she finished, silence fell again. Aaron took a slow breath. "It sounds beautiful." "It was," Nira whispered. "It is still there, far away, waiting for me. But I may never see it again." Her voice cracked slightly and Aaron felt his chest tighten. He wanted to comfort her, to reach through the wall to prove somehow that not all humans were cruel. But he could not. The wall was too thick and his courage too thin. That night, when his shift ended, Aaron returned to his quarters. He lay awake staring at the ceiling. Every word she had spoken played again and again in his head. He could not shake the sadness in her tone, the way she longed for freedom yet had no hope of gaining it. The next few days followed the same rhythm. Aaron did his duties, spoke little in the mess hall, and each night returned to the chamber. And each night Nira was waiting. Their talks grew longer, deeper. She asked about his childhood, his family, the green fields he had run through as a boy. She wanted to know the taste of fresh fruit, the smell of rain, the feeling of wind on the skin. In return, she told him of starlit skies where moons danced together, of rivers that sang when the wind passed over them, of creatures that glowed softly like lanterns in the night. The more they spoke, the more Aaron felt the walls between them fade, even though the steel door still stood. He no longer thought of her as the prisoner or the monster. She was simply Nira, a voice filled with warmth in a place that had always been cold. But danger was never far. One evening, while Aaron stood close to the chamber door, another guard's footsteps echoed down the corridor. Aaron jumped back and quickly adjusted his posture, pretending to check the locks. The guard glanced at him suspiciously. "Everything quiet down here?" "Yes," Aaron answered quickly. "No sounds, no movement, all secure." The guard nodded slowly, still watching him, then walked away. Aaron let out a long breath, his hands trembling. If the guard had come closer, if he had heard even a whisper of Nira's voice, everything would have been over. When the hall was quiet again, Nira spoke softly. "You risk much for me." Aaron shook his head, though she could not see it. "You deserve to be heard. That is not a risk, it is only right." Her reply was quiet but strong. "You are different from the others." From that night onward, their bond grew stronger. Aaron no longer doubted her words. He could feel her truth in every sentence, in every pause between breaths. She was no monster. She was a soul trapped by fear and lies. Yet the danger weighed heavier each day. The senior officer gave more warnings during morning drills. He reminded the guards that the prisoner was cunning, that it could trick them with false kindness, that they must never allow themselves to be fooled. Aaron kept his face calm, nodding with the others, but inside his anger burned. They spoke of Nira as if she were less than alive, as if her voice carried no meaning. They wanted to erase her truth before it could even be heard. One night, after a long silence, Aaron spoke to her in a whisper sharper than before. "Nira, what if I could help you? What if I could find a way?" Her reply came slow, cautious. "Do not put yourself in danger, Aaron. I would not see harm come to you." "But you cannot stay here forever," Aaron insisted. "This is not right." "Hope is dangerous in a place like this," she said. "But hearing you speak gives me more hope than I have felt in years." Aaron pressed his forehead against the wall. He felt powerless, yet also filled with determination. For the first time in his life, he wanted to break a rule, not for himself, but for someone else. And deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. The days in the research base moved slowly, each one filled with the same sounds of machines, the same gray halls, the same cold routines. For most of the guards, this life was dull but safe. For Aaron, however, everything had changed. Nights were no longer empty. He had Nira's voice, soft and calm, filling the silence. She had become the hidden fire in his heart, the one thing that gave warmth to the frozen walls around him. But with that warmth came fear. Each time he stood near her chamber, he knew he was breaking the greatest rule of the base. If anyone found out, he would lose everything. Yet no matter how hard he tried, he could not stay away. Something in her words pulled him back again and again. One evening, after a long day of drills, Aaron returned to the chamber door. The hall was quiet and the lights above flickered faintly. He stood close to the wall and whispered, "Nira, are you there?" Her reply came quickly, almost as if she had been waiting for him. "Always, I knew you would come." Aaron smiled, though no one could see it. "I had to. I wanted to hear you again." They spoke for a while, sharing stories of their worlds, but as their voices mingled in the still air, Aaron's curiosity grew heavier. He wanted answers. He wanted to know the truth behind the lies told by the officers. "Nira," he asked at last, "why do they keep you here? Why not end it if they fear you so much? Why keep you locked away instead of removing the danger?" Nira's voice fell quiet. When she spoke again, her tone was low and careful. "Because I know things they do not want me to tell. Because I saw what they wish to hide. Keeping me silent is safer for them than setting me free. They call me a monster, but what they fear most is my memory." Aaron's eyes narrowed.
What did you see?
Her answer came slowly, each word like a stone laid with care. "When I saved the human explorer, I saw what happened after. I saw the leaders panic, not because I had harmed him, but because they were afraid of what others would think if they admitted they owed their lives to someone like me. They feared that the truth would weaken their control. So they twisted the story. They said I attacked, that I was dangerous, and they locked me away. I am not here because of what I did, Aaron. I am here because of what they did not want others to know." Aaron's heart pounded. Could it be true? Could his own leaders be hiding such a terrible lie? He thought of the officer's words, the warnings repeated every morning, the way the guards spoke in fear without ever seeing her. It all made sense now. Fear was not a shield. It was a chain, one that kept everyone from asking questions. He pressed his hand against the wall. "That means all of them believed the lie." "Yes," Nira whispered. "And lies grow stronger when no one dares to break them." The thought burned in Aaron's chest long after he left the hall. That night he lay awake in his bunk, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of what he had learned. His mind replayed Nira's words, each one heavy with truth. Could he really continue living like this, guarding a door that should never have been locked in the first place? The next day, Aaron's doubt grew stronger. During drills, the senior officer gave another speech. He reminded the guards to stay alert, to never listen to the prisoner, to never fall for its tricks. His voice was sharp, his eyes hard. "The being in that cell is not like us," the officer said. "It will use words to poison your thoughts. It will speak of peace, of kindness, but do not listen. Its only goal is escape, and if it escapes, death will follow." Aaron clenched his fists at his sides. He wanted to shout, to tell them they were wrong, but he stayed silent. He could not risk exposing himself, not yet. Later that night, he returned once more to Nira's chamber. "They lie to everyone," he whispered. "They always have," Nira replied. "But truth cannot be hidden forever. Someone will see it. Someone will hear it." "You have." Aaron lowered his voice. "But what can I do? If I speak, no one will believe me. If I try to help you, they will call me a traitor. You already risk much by standing here," Nira said softly. "That is more than anyone else has done in all these years." Her words gave him strength but also sharpened his fear. Every step closer to her felt like stepping further away from the world he had known. That week, Aaron made a choice. He wanted proof. He could not rely only on her words, no matter how much he trusted her voice. He needed something he could see with his own eyes. Late one night, when the base was quiet, he slipped into the record chamber. The door hissed as it opened, and the room inside was lined with glowing screens and shelves of data drives. His hands shook as he searched, afraid that at any moment another guard might appear. Finally, he found a folder marked with the symbol of the lower chamber. He opened it quickly, scanning the files. Most were filled with the same warnings. Specimen dangerous. Do not approach. Avoid contact. But then he found a hidden file, buried deep. He tapped the screen and an old report appeared. The words made his blood run cold. Subject rescued human officer from fire. No hostile action recorded. Restraint initiated due to appearance and psychological effect on crew. Aaron read the line again and again. His breath quickened. It was true. She had saved them. She had not attacked. The order to capture her was based not on danger but on fear. Fear of how she looked. Fear of what her kindness revealed. His hands trembled as he closed the file. He knew now beyond doubt. The prisoner was innocent. Aaron slipped out of the record chamber and returned to his quarters, his mind burning with the weight of truth. He wanted to run to Nira at once to tell her he had seen proof, but he forced himself to wait until his next round. When night came, he hurried to her chamber. "Nira," he whispered, his voice urgent. "Yes, Aaron," she answered. "I found it." "The records?" "They wrote it down. You saved a man. You never harmed anyone. It's all there. They hid it, but I saw it." For a moment, silence filled the hall. Then Nira spoke, her voice trembling. "You saw it. At last someone knows." "I believe you," Aaron said firmly. "I believed you before, but now I know. They lied to us, to all of us." "You should not be here." Her reply was quiet, but filled with emotion. "Thank you, Aaron. You have no idea what it means to be heard, truly heard, after so long." Aaron pressed his hand harder against the wall, wishing he could break through it. "I want to help you. I don't know how yet, but I will. You don't belong in this place." "Be careful," Nira whispered. "If they see even a shadow of your doubt, they will turn against you. Do not let them know until you are ready." Aaron nodded, though she could not see it. "I understand." As he walked away that night, his heart was heavy but full of fire. The truth was now in his hands. He could no longer pretend. The officers had built their lies on fear, but Aaron had seen through it, and he knew one day the truth would break free. Aaron's life no longer felt the same. The gray halls of the base pressed heavier on his chest. Every sound of boots on metal floors made him tense. Every glance from another guard felt sharper, as if they could see through him and into the secret he carried. He had proof now. He had seen the report with his own eyes. Nira had been captured not because of danger but because of fear. But what could he do with the truth? If he spoke, the officers would deny everything. If he showed them the file, they would erase it and maybe erase him as well. The truth was a flame too small to light the base, yet too bright to hide inside his chest. Each night he returned to Nira. Her voice was his only comfort. "You found courage," she told him. "You looked for answers when others would not." "It is not enough," Aaron whispered. "I know now, but knowing does not change anything. You are still behind this wall. I am still standing outside, powerless." "You are not powerless," Nira said. "You still choose. Every choice shapes the path ahead. The day will come when the wall breaks one way or another. When it does, your choice will matter." Aaron wanted to believe her, but the weight of the base felt too strong. Orders, drills, warnings, all of it worked like chains to keep him silent. Then came the storm. It started without warning. A wave of meteors struck the outer shield of the base. Alarms rang across the halls. Red lights flashed on the walls and the sound of metal shaking filled the air. Guards shouted orders. Scientists rushed to secure equipment. The base groaned as fragments slammed against it. Aaron joined the others, running through the corridors to seal the weaker sections. His heart pounded as he helped push heavy panels into place. Sparks flew from broken wires and the air smelled of smoke. When the storm passed, silence returned, but not peace. The officers gathered the guards in the control room. The senior officer's face was hard, his voice sharp. "The meteor storm has damaged the lower levels," he said. "Energy cells are unstable. One of the prisoner chambers has taken heavy strain. We will double guard shifts to ensure nothing breaks." Aaron's blood turned cold. He knew which chamber they meant. That night, during his shift, he hurried down to the lower corridor. He pressed his ear to the wall. The locks hummed weakly, their glow dimmer than before. "Nira," he whispered urgently, "are you safe?" Her voice came faint but steady. "I am here." The storm shook the walls. "I can feel the locks weakening." Aaron's heart raced. The idea of her chamber failing filled him with both hope and fear. If the locks broke, she could step out. She could finally be free. But if the guards found out first, they would destroy her. He pressed his hand against the cold door. "If it fails, they will come for you. They will not give you a chance. They will end this before listening." "Yes," Nira said calmly. That is why the choice will come to you. Will you walk away? Or will you open the door before they arrive? Aaron's breath caught. The thought of opening the chamber terrified him. His entire life had been built on rules, and the greatest rule of all was never release the prisoner. Breaking it would make him a traitor. But leaving Nira meant watching her perish, knowing she had never deserved this fate. That night, Aaron could not sleep. He lay in his bunk, staring at the ceiling as the storm's echoes rattled in his ears. His mind showed him two futures, one where he walked away and lived as a loyal guard, empty and broken inside, and one where he opened the door and faced the unknown with Nira. The next day, repairs began across the base. Engineers moved equipment to the lower levels. Aaron joined a team to carry supplies. As they passed the chamber corridor, he saw sparks dancing along the door locks. His chest tightened. He walked faster, afraid the others would notice. The senior officer ordered extra patrols around the prisoner chamber. "If the system fails, we end it at once," he said coldly. No hesitation. Aaron clenched his fists. The words stabbed into him, "End it," as if Nira were nothing more than a broken machine. That evening, he returned alone to the chamber. His voice shook as he whispered, "Nira, the officers are watching closely. If they see the locks fail, they will kill you." Her reply was steady. "Then the choice will be yours. If you believe I am what they say, leave me. If you believe the truth, open the door." Aaron's heart pounded. "If I open it, what happens next? Where will you go? How will you survive?" "I will not run far," Nira said. "Not at first. But freedom is not about distance. It is about breath. One breath outside this wall will mean more than a lifetime inside it. If you trust me, I will not harm you. I will not harm anyone. I only wish to live." Her words wrapped around Aaron's heart. He remembered the report, the proof he had seen. He remembered her stories of glowing seas and silver skies. He remembered the sadness in her voice, the loneliness in her tone, and he remembered the warmth of her hope when she said his name. The next night, the storm returned. Another wave of meteors struck the base, harder than before. Alarms blared again. The floor shook under Aaron's boots. Lights flickered and went dark. Sparks rained from broken wires. Aaron's squad rushed to seal cracks in the upper walls, but his mind was already on the lower level. He could almost feel the chamber breaking apart. When his shift ended, he ran down the quiet corridor. The locks on the chamber door flickered weakly, glowing and fading like a candle ready to die. Smoke curled from the edges where the storm had torn the circuits. "Nira!" Aaron called, his voice tight with fear. "I am here," she answered. "The wall is failing." Aaron's heart pounded louder than the alarms. He could already hear footsteps in the distance. The officers would arrive soon. They would see the broken locks. They would end her. He pressed both hands against the door. His breath shook. This was the moment. The choice he had feared and waited for. "They will be here any second," he whispered. "Yes," Nira said softly. "But you are here now, and only you can choose." Aaron closed his eyes. He saw again the faces of the guards, the officers' cold warnings, the lies built on fear. Then he saw Nira's face in his imagination, shaped not by fear but by her voice, gentle, kind, waiting. He pulled the lever. The locks gave a final hiss and fell silent. The heavy door creaked and slid open, the sound echoing down the corridor. Light spilled from the chamber, dim and blue. For the first time, Aaron saw her. She was tall, her arms longer than his, her skin marked with soft glowing patterns that shifted like water. Her eyes shone with a gentle light, deep and calm. To others she might have looked strange, even frightening. But to Aaron she was not a monster. She was beautiful in her difference, alive in a way no story could describe. Nira stepped forward slowly. Her voice trembled with emotion. "Aaron." He stood frozen, his chest tight. Then she reached out, her arms trembling, and pulled him close. She hugged him as if she had waited her whole life for this single moment. Her touch was warm, her hold desperate yet gentle. Aaron's heart thundered. All the fear, all the lies, all the warnings faded into silence. In that hug, he knew the truth more deeply than any report could show. She was no monster. She was hope. But footsteps echoed down the corridor. The guards were coming. Nira pulled back, her glowing eyes fixed on his. "The choice is not finished. If you want me to live, you must stand with me now." Aaron swallowed hard, his hand tightening around hers. He could hear the voices drawing closer, shouting orders. The moment had come. For the first time in his life, Aaron was ready to stand against everything he had been told. The corridor filled with echoes of boots striking metal. Voices barked orders harsh and sharp. The glow from the chamber lit Aaron and Nira where they stood. She was free now, standing in the open air for the first time in many years. Her glowing skin patterns shimmered faintly, pulsing like waves in calm water. Aaron's breath was heavy. He could see shadows moving at the far end of the corridor. The guards were almost here. He tightened his grip on Nira's hand. She held it firmly, her eyes never leaving his. "They will see me," she said quietly. "They will judge me before they even listen. If you stand aside, they will kill me." Aaron swallowed hard. Fear clawed inside him. But another force rose stronger. Something fierce, something bright. He had lived his life under orders, but now he felt his chest burn with his own choice. The first guards appeared, rifles ready. Their faces froze when they saw the open door and Nira standing tall. "By the stars," one whispered. "She is out." "Stop right there," another shouted. His weapon lifted toward Nira. Aaron stepped in front of her. "No, put the guns down." The guard stared at him in shock. "Aaron, what are you doing?" "Move aside. You know the order." "I know the order," Aaron said firmly. "But the order is wrong. She is not what they told us. She is not a monster. She is alive just like us." The guards hesitated. Their training clashed with their uncertainty. Before they could respond, the senior officer stormed down the corridor. His eyes narrowed when he saw Aaron standing protectively before Nira. "So," the officer said coldly, "the weak guard has lost his mind. Step away, Aaron, now." Aaron shook his head. "No, I will not." The officer raised his hand, signaling the others to prepare. "You do not understand what you are dealing with. That creature is dangerous. If she leaves this base, everything we built will collapse." "She is not dangerous," Aaron said, his voice shaking but loud. "I spoke to her. I learned the truth. You captured her because you were afraid. You built lies to hide your fear. But lies will not protect us. Only truth will." The officer's face hardened. "Enough. If you do not move, you will be treated as a traitor." Aaron's heart pounded, but he did not step aside. Behind him, Nira placed her hand gently on his shoulder. Her glowing eyes looked past the guards, calm and steady. "I will not fight you," she said softly, "but I will not go back to the cage." Her words hung heavy in the air. For the first time, the guards hesitated, their weapons trembling. She did not roar, she did not threaten, she only spoke with dignity. That alone cracked their certainty. The officer barked, "Fire!" But before the order could be carried out, the base shook violently. Another meteor from the storm struck close above, and the corridor groaned as metal plates bent. Sparks flew. The lights flickered and dimmed. Alarms screamed. The blast sent dust raining from the ceiling. Some guards staggered, others fell. In the chaos, Nira spread her arms and pulled Aaron closer. Her body glowed brighter, forming a soft shield of light that shielded them both from falling debris. The guards froze at the sight. Their eyes widened. They had expected her to strike with rage, but instead she protected. When the dust cleared, Nira lowered her arms. The glow faded softly. She turned her eyes back to them. "You see now. I am not your enemy." Silence filled the corridor. The officer's face twisted with anger. He raised his weapon, but one of the guards grabbed his arm. "Sir, wait," the guard said. "You saw it. She saved us. If she wanted to kill us, she could have done it already." "Do not be fooled," the officer snapped. "That is how monsters deceive." "No," Aaron said firmly. He stepped forward, his voice strong. "That is how life shows mercy. Look at her. Does this look like hate, or does it look like hope?" The guards looked at one another. Their hands lowered slowly, weapons trembling in their grip. The officer's eyes burned with fury, but he was outnumbered. Aaron reached for Nira's hand again. "We leave now," he said. The officer shouted, "You will not escape." He lunged, but two guards blocked his path. "Moves," he roared. "No, sir," one guard said quietly. "This is not right." The officer glared at them, but the strength in his command was breaking. Aaron led Nira through the corridor, the glow of her skin lighting their path. Step by step, they moved past the guards. No bullets fired. No hands reached to stop them. For the first time, silence was not filled with fear, but with doubt. And in that doubt, Nira found space to breathe. They reached the outer level. Alarms still wailed, and the storm continued outside. But the hangar doors were partly open, broken by the strikes. Through the gap, Aaron saw the sky, a dark canvas filled with fire trails from falling meteors. Beyond that, endless stars stretched wide. Nira stopped and looked up, her eyes shimmering. Her chest rose with a deep breath. "The sky," she whispered. After so long, Aaron watched her. The glow in her skin pulsed brighter, as if her body itself was answering the stars. Behind them, more footsteps approached. The officer had broken free of his men and now ran toward them, weapon raised. His face twisted with rage. "You will not take her," he shouted. "She belongs to us. She belongs in the cage." Aaron spun around. He stepped in front of Nira once more, his voice ringing clear. "She belongs to no cage. She belongs to the stars." The officer aimed his weapon. His hands shook with fury. But before he could fire, one of the guards from behind tackled him to the ground. The weapon slid across the floor. "Enough, sir," the guard said firmly. "This ends here," the officer shouted in rage. But his words were drowned by the storm outside. Aaron turned back to Nira. "Come, the sky is waiting." Together, they stepped through the gap in the hangar door. The wind of the storm hit them hard, carrying dust and sparks, but Nira's glow spread like a shield, softening the force. She raised her head and closed her eyes as if the very air fed her spirit. Aaron looked up at the stars. For the first time, he saw them not as cold lights, but as paths of freedom. Nira turned to him, her glowing eyes warm. "You chose truth. For that I am free. But freedom is not only mine. It is yours as well." Aaron felt a weight lift from his chest. The chains of fear and lies that had bound him his whole life were gone. He had chosen, and his choice had meaning. Behind them, the base still roared with alarms. The officer's shouts faded as more guards began to question, to wonder, to see. The seed of doubt had been planted, and truth had begun to grow. Aaron knew their path would not be easy. The world outside might still call Nira a monster. They might still hunt her, but he also knew one thing with certainty. He would never leave her side. She reached for his hand again. He held it tightly. Together, they stepped forward into the storm, walking toward the horizon where fire met stars. For the first time, Nira was free. For the first time, Aaron was alive. And for the first time, the future felt wide as the sky.